We've all probably caught wind by now about the second installment of Avatar coming to theaters pretty soon, and generally speaking, we're all stoked about seeing the blue humanoids at it again with their flora and fauna against the ever-evil humans and their mechanoids. All that's great. James Cameron is always immaculate with his products, but what if there's even a slight chance that the movie cannot make an impact? Let's discuss. Starting off, is Avatar 2 going to be a sure-shot success? Director James Cameron admits that if Avatar: The Way of Water underperforms at the box office, the franchise may be radically altered. The first Avatar film, released in 2009, introduced fans to the extraterrestrial moon of Pandora and Sam Worthington's Jake Sully. Sully seeks to infiltrate a village of Pandora's native residents, the Na'vi, but quickly joins forces with them against the human invaders. Avatar was a box office sensation and is presently the highest-grossing film of all time, with 4 sequels in the works. Next up, the sequel is gonna be a big splash of water. Avatar: The Way of Water, the first sequel, will be released later this year, continuing the narrative of Jake, Neytiri, played by the beautiful Zoe Saldana, and their children. Avatar 2 previews have previously teased the project's stunning graphics, with Cameron spending years creating cameras and motion capture technology to bring the film's underwater sequences to life. Avatar: The Way of Water picks up 14 years after the first film's events, following Jake and Neytiri as they try to keep their family together in the face of a new threat. According to producer John Landau, Avatar 3 is currently in post-production, while Avatar 4 filming is already remarkably far underway. Director James Cameron discusses how the franchise strategy would alter if Avatar: The Way of Water bombs at the box office in a new interview with Total Film magazine. Although Avatar is supposed to have 4 sequels, the director says that if the second picture underperforms, Avatar 3 might be changed into a franchise ending. So all the money, effort, and brain juice spent on making Avatar 4 until now is all going to waste. But we think the movie is going to be a box office success. Early box office forecasts for Avatar: The Way of Water show that the next picture will make $650 million in the United States, which falls slightly short of the previous film, but is still a significant figure. While the Avatar sequels remain a financial risk, the latest re-release of Avatar proved incredibly popular at the box office, indicating that fan interest in the series remains high despite the 13 years since the initial picture. The box office forecasts also do not take into consideration global performance, although the original Avatar performed well in other regions, most notably China. Cameron's statement confirms that, regardless of how well the impending sequel succeeds, franchise fans will receive Avatar 3. He has continually demonstrated that he shouldn't be underestimated as a director, with successes like The Terminator, Aliens, and Titanic under his credit, implying that Avatar: The Way of Water might defy expectations and exceed box office estimates. While the evolving theatrical landscape means that Avatar: The Way of Water will almost surely fall short of the original film's box office highs, there is still reason to believe that Cameron's backup plan will not be needed. Moving on, Stephen Lang was full of praise for the movie. After several delays, Avatar: The Way of Water has become one of the year's most anticipated films, and a recent update indicates that it will all be worth the wait. James Cameron, the filmmaker of Titanic, is no stranger to films featuring magnificent aquatic vistas. Avatar 2 will be released an abnormally long time after its predecessor, but considering Titanic and the original Avatar, this is a positive thing. Both films were aesthetically innovative, and Cameron spent his time perfecting the special effects, which both broke box office records. With such a long-awaited sequel, he is bound to outdo his already amazing work when Avatar: The Way of Water enters theaters. While Cameron has yet to comment on the images, Avatar 2 actor Stephen Lang hinted at them in a recent interview. He told the audience that he had already watched a chunk of the final film and that he'd never seen anything like it. Avatar featured astounding visual effects that transformed CGI forever, and it appears The Way of Water will break even more ground with the incorporation of water and heavy water effects. Further, the first look of the sequel took some beating over its CGI. Avatar 2 attracted criticism for its CGI when the first teaser trailer was released. However, that has now been revealed to be incorrect criticism. Much of the film was shot underwater, and the cast members had to learn how to hold their breath for long periods of time. Cameron and his colleagues created an entirely new type of underwater motion capture technology to do this. Previously, combining underwater pictures with mocap was impractical. Instead, actors were strung on wires to simulate floating, with the water digitally put in later. However, James Cameron was adamant that the underwater scenes be shot underwater in order to offer a more immersive experience, both physically and metaphorically. Knowing Cameron's obsession with perfection, the post-production CGI will be adjusted right up to the release of Avatar: The Way of Water. While box revenue forecasts for Avatar 2 are lower, anticipation and dazzling visuals may be more than enough for it to become the next major box office blockbuster. Incredible visual effects are a big reason why the first Avatar smashed so many records. Spending 13 years creating a sequel has allowed Cameron, as well as the visual effects crew, and everyone else involved in the film to make a film that will definitely be technologically superior to the first. Now, let's talk about Avatar and the rise of the paracosm. Firstly, hearing James talk about his movie is such a delight. Cameron's vision for the Avatar films was to immerse audiences in the world of Pandora, an extrasolar moon somewhere in the Alpha Centauri system, where every tree, plant, bush, flower, and blade of grass is rendered in every weather condition – rain, sun, mist, using facial rigs, motion capture, and keyframe CG animation. Cameron described it as entering a world. You become completely involved in it. You feel as if it surrounds you and you become a resident. You go on that trip. The world of Avatar came before the story, or perhaps it is more appropriate to say that the world was the story. Cameron's original treatment, Project 880, written in 1994, differs significantly from the finished film. From the names of its characters, Jake Sully is Josh Sully, Neytiri is Zalika, Grace Augustine is Grace Shipley, to the concept of the avatars themselves, which have a rudimentary consciousness capable of feeling terror and comfort in the presence of their human driver. Pandora's universe, on the other hand, was always the same. Secondly, psychologists say the Avatar movies are a figment of Cameron's daydreaming. Cameron's behavior in math class is described in developmental psychology terms. His youthful fantasy of Pandora was halfway between a heterocosm, an adult author's fictional world meant for publication, such as Thomas Hardy's Wessex or Mervyn Peake's Gormenghast, and a paracosm, an imaginative world conjured by a kid that is almost wholly private in its original form. They appear to be connected to all the private clubhouses, hidden rituals, and secret societies of middle childhood, and that they are maintained over time, often years, while the kid constructs a logically consistent, satisfyingly complete alternate reality for themselves. They fade away around the age of 12 or 14. Pretty impressive that Cameron has instead kept all that info. Paracosms grow like mushrooms on the internet. Subredditors on Reddit trade notes on their fictitious kingdoms, while sites like Paracosm Worlds provide advice and world-building ideas for finding your territory. There are online classes that provide writing exercises and workshops for aspiring fantasy and sci-fi writers, as well as newspaper articles and how-to books for aspiring world builders, such as Stephen L. Gillette's World Building, a writer's guide to constructing star systems and life-supporting planets. Thirdly, all that paracosm got us Cameron's Avatar series. Many cultural luminaries have found themselves captivated by these fictitious universes. For example, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and his sister shared a secret language and called one another as king and queen of their fictitious realm. The Brontes envisaged an infernal universe filled with Byronic villains and architectural grandeur. C.S. Lewis created an animal kingdom in which cats functioned as knights of the Round Table. Maps were created by Robert Louis Stevenson. Languages were developed by J.R.R. Tolkien, and phony passports were issued by Polish science fiction writer Stanislaw Lem. This is turning into a fascinating history lesson, isn't it? Friedrich Nietzsche and his sister Elizabeth imagined a universe centered around an inch-and-a-half-tall ceramic squirrel. If Cameron hadn't shown us that this condition can be used for good, we'd much rather be thinking that this is a psychological condition that is borderline schizophrenic. But well, let's not judge here and instead enjoy the upcoming movie. That's a wrap for this video. What are your early views on Avatar 2? Is Avatar and the Rise of the Paracosm a more benefiting name? Let us know in the comments below. It'd be awesome if you gave this video a thumbs up, and please don't forget to subscribe for more scrumptious videos like this. See you in the next one.